Our week 2 topic for ECF are 5 pillars of learning and education for sustainable development. So, what should we expect to learn from these topics? The intended learning outcome for this week's lessons are: first, affirm significant pillars of learning in evaluating areas for personal and professional goals. Second, recognize and interpret logos of UNDP Sustainable Development Goals. And third, reflect agreeably by implicating oneself on education for sustainable development goals. As we start our lesson for today, here are some guide questions that might help you discover the essence of knowing the scope of learning, education with regards to the community, and sustainable development. First, what is a community? Second, what concepts are involved in building a community? Third, what are the features of sustainable community? Fourth, why is education linked to sustainable development? And what can you contribute to build sustainable community? With the concern in rapid societal and technological change, there is a need to rethink the purpose of education and the organization of learning. There are a lot of implications to explore for both teaching and learning practices, as well as for the aims of education. From the 5 pillars of education, perspectives from UNESCO, there are a range of areas like humanistic futures of learning, content, methods, challenges, influence, and others. As for Jacques Delors, there was a report created by the Delors Commission that proposed an integrated vision of education based on two concepts. First, learning throughout life and the pillars of learning. According to this, choices about education were determined by choices about what kind of society we wish to live in. Beyond education's immediate functionality, it considered the formation of the whole person to be an essential part of education's purpose. Now, what are the 5 pillars of learning? First is the learning to know. It is about knowledge, values, and skills for respecting and searching for knowledge and wisdom. Basically, we have to know how to learn to be able to learn. Gathering or acquiring tools we could use to have a better understanding of the world we live in. As we grew up, we tried to understand how to sustain our life with the concepts and issues of life and our surroundings too. And still, until now, we continue learning to know a lot of things and we actually never stop learning things. In short, we acquire a state of learning throughout life. The second pillar is learning to do, which is about knowledge, values, and skills for active engagement in productive employment and recreation. To be able to do active engagement, we should be an actor as well as a thinker. We have to understand and act on global and local sustainable development issues. We also have to acquire technical and professional training, then apply our learned knowledge in daily life so we could be able to act creatively and responsibly in one's environment. Now, with the fourth pillar, it is about learning to live together. Here, it's about knowledge, values, and skills for international, intercultural, and community cooperation and peace. In our daily life, we actually participate and cooperate with others in increasingly pluralistic multicultural societies. We always develop an understanding of other people and their histories, traditions, beliefs, values, and cultures. We even tolerate, respect, welcome, embrace, and even celebrate difference and diversity in people. We also tend to respond constructively to the cultural diversity and economic disparity found around the world. We do all of this to be able to cope with the situations of tension, exclusion, conflict, violence, and terrorism. And ultimately because we try to learn how to live together with others. And the last pillar is learning to transfer oneself and society, which is about the knowledge, values, and skills for self-reflection and active citizenship. As part of a society, we work toward a gender-neutral, non-discriminatory society. We learn to develop the ability and will to integrate sustainable lifestyles for ourselves and others. We also learn to promote behaviors and practices that minimize our ecological footprint on the world around us. We always try to be respectful of the earth and life in all its diversity so we can act to achieve a social solidarity. And most especially, we learn to promote democracy in a society where peace prevails. From what we discussed about learning pillars, it gave us ideas or concept on how we may define what community is. We could give a definition of community based on how people try to learn by oneself and towards the others, and that what makes a community. We are learning things on how to act with other people living in the same place or having a particular characteristics in common. Also a feeling of fellowship with others. And not only it gave us the definition of what community, but also mentioned some concepts that involves building a community. According to David Chavis and Kinley, community is both a feeling and a state of relationships among people. People form and maintain communities to meet common needs. Members of a community have a sense of trust, belonging, safety, and caring for each other. They have an individual and collective sense that they can, as part of that community, influence their environments and each other. Now let's proceed to our next topic, which is education for sustainable development. When we say sustainable development, you might think of the guide questions I gave earlier, like what are the features of sustainable community? Why is education linked to it? And what can be contributed to build a sustainable community? Topic 4, Education for Sustainable Development. Education has a major role to play as a force for the future also. As UNESCO states, it is widely agreed that education is the most effective means that society possesses for confronting the challenges of the future. Indeed, education will shape the world of tomorrow. Progress increasingly depends upon the products of educated minds, upon research, intervention, innovation, and adaptation. Of course, educated minds and instincts are needed not only in laboratories and research institutes, but in every day or in every walk of life. Indeed, access to education is the essential for effective participation in the life of modern world at all levels. Education, to be certain, is not the whole answer to every problem, but education, in its broadest sense, must be a vital part of all efforts to imagine and create new relations among people and to foster greater respect for the needs of the environment. Education can ensure that all citizens, young and old, are knowledgeable about the changes that are needed, capable of envisioning alternative futures, committed to the democratic ways of achieving them, and sufficiently skilled and motivated to work actively for change. This is education for sustainable development. Now, in this page, you will see the Sustainable Development Goals. As you can see, it mentions a total of 17 goals. Number 1, no poverty. 2, no hunger. 3, good health. Number 4, quality education. 5, gender equality. 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 7, renewable energy. 8, good jobs and economic growth. 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Number 10, reduce inequalities. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption. Number 13, climate action. 14, life below water. 15, life on land. Number 16, peace and justice. And last, 17, partnerships for the goals. So, what are the Sustainable Development Goals? The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, also known as the Global Goals, were adopted by the United Nations in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by year 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity. The 17 SDGs are integrated that they recognize that action in one area will affect outcomes in the others, and that development must balance social, economic, and environmental sustainability. Countries have committed to prioritize progress for those who are farthest behind. The SDGs are designed to end poverty, hunger, AIDS, and discrimination against women and girls. The creativity, know-how, technology, and financial resources from all society is necessary to achieve the SDGs in every context. Again, what is a sustainable community? A sustainable community is a far-seeing enough, flexible enough, and wise enough to maintain its natural economic, social, and political support system. A sustainable community continues to thrive from generation to generation because it has, first, a healthy and diverse ecological system that continually performs life-sustaining functions and provides other resources for humans and other species. Second, a social foundation that provides for the health of all community members, respects cultural diversity, is equitable in its actions, and considers the needs of future generations. And last, a healthy and diverse community that adapts to change, provides long-term security to residents, and recognizes social and ecological limits. And that ends our lecture for today. And let's proceed to activity 1.2. If there's any clarifications or questions, you may click the raise hand button or send it through chat box. And for the last part of our class today, we will go to our activity. Activity 1.2, diagram. You are asked to make your own diagram. In your e-learning journal, draw a diagram or symbols to represent each of the 5 pillars of learning. Label each symbol with creative title. This activity will have 20 points in total.